Quick question. Have you ever been scrolling through Facebook, watching a YouTube video, or speaking to another UK medical cannabis patient when someone drops a phrase like, "I'm just waiting for an MDT," or "it's non-irradiated," or "that one's gone oos," and everyone else seems to know exactly what they're talking about? Meanwhile, you're sat there thinking, should I know what this means? Well, don't worry, because by the end of this video, you'll understand some of the most common words and phrases you'll come across as a UK medical cannabis patient. All explained in plain English. No confusing medical jargon, no fancy terminology, just the things I think every new patient should genuinely know. If you're new here, my name's Smokie McGreen, and this channel is all about helping people better understand UK medical cannabis. Now, today's video is mainly aimed at people that are new to medical cannabis. But honestly, I reckon some of you that have been patients for years will hear something today and think, so that's what that means. Now, before we get started, just remember, this isn't every cannabis word ever invented. These are the ones that I think every UK medical cannabis patient should know first. Right then, let's get cracking. A is for adverse effects. Now, don't let the name put you off because it actually sounds scarier than it is. It's simply the medical term for side effects. Just like any other medication, medical cannabis can cause side effects in some people. Some might be mild, some might not experience any at all. Now, here's the important bit. If something doesn't feel right, don't make your first stop the Facebook comments. I know, it's tempting, but your clinic knows your medical history, they know what you've been prescribed, and why you've been prescribed it. So if you've got any concerns, they're the best people to speak to. Hopefully you'll never need to, but now you'll understand what people mean when we talk about adverse effects. Right, B is for batch number. Now I'll be honest, when I first became a medical patient, I didn't even know that there was one. Every tub or packet of prescribed flour has a batch number printed on there. Think of it like your medication's fingerprint. If there's ever a quality issue, a recall, or your clinic asks which medication you've received, that's the number they'll want. So next time your prescription arrives, have a little look. I bet half of you watching have never even noticed it before. C is for CBPM. Now this one sounds far more complicated than it actually is. Officially, it stands for Cannabis-Based Product for Medicinal Use. That's the legal term you'll see in legislation and official guidance. In the real world though, nobody really says, my CBPM's just turned up today. Yay. We all just call it medical cannabis. So if you ever spot CBPM written anywhere in official documents, don't panic, it's just the legal name for your prescribed medication. D is for dry herb vaporizer. Now, if you're brand new to medical cannabis, there's a very good chance that you've never even seen one of these before. But if you're prescribed flour, this is the method your clinic wants you to use.
They do? Of course they do.
Instead of burning the flour, a dry herb vaporizer heats the flour to release the important compounds. It produces vapour without combustion. You'll hear people say, "Don't smoke it, vape it." And that is exactly why. Honestly, if you're prescribed flour, this will probably be one of the most used gadgets in your house. And if you're wondering which one to buy, don't worry, I've got plenty of videos covering different vapes, so go and check them out on the channel. E is for eligibility. Now honestly, if I had £1 for every message asking, "Smokie, am I eligible to get medical cannabis?" I'd probably be filming this from the Maldives. The honest answer is, maybe. Every patient is different, every medical history is different, and every clinic assesses patients individually. Generally speaking, medical cannabis is considered for people who have a qualifying condition and have already tried conventional methods without getting the results they wanted. But nobody on Facebook, nobody in the YouTube comments, not even me, can tell you if you'll be accepted.
Probably will.
Only the specialist clinician assessing you can make that decision. So if you're thinking about applying, book the consultation. What's the worst they can say? No. F is for follow-up consultation. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking once your first prescription lands on your doorstep, that's it, job done. Your clinic will usually arrange follow-up appointments to assess how you're doing. Think of it like a bit of a checkup. Is everything working as expected? Do they need to make changes? Are you happy with your prescription? If the answer to any of those are no, then that's what your follow-up consultation is for. Don't just sit there struggling thinking, oh, it's alright, I'll put up with it. Tell your clinic. That's exactly why they're there. G is for GMC Specialist Registrar. Now I know, not exactly the most exciting thing in the world, but actually, it's really important. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, why won't my GP prescribe medical cannabis? Well, one of the reasons is because in the UK, medical cannabis has to be prescribed by doctors who are on the General Medical Council's specialist register. So it's not necessarily that your GP doesn't want to prescribe it to you. In most cases, they simply can't. That's why you'll normally go through a private clinic with a specialist doctor instead. H is for hybrid. Now this is one you'll see all the time when you're looking through clinic formularies. Years ago, people would often describe cannabis as either indica or sativa. These days though, most flower you'll come across will be a hybrid. All that means is that it's a combination of different cannabis genetics. So don't overthink it. If someone says it's a hybrid, they're simply talking about the plant's genetic background. It's one of those words you'll see all the time once you start looking at what's available. I is for irradiation. Now, before anyone starts an argument in the comments, let's keep this one nice and simple. Irradiation is a process used to reduce microbes on medical cannabis. It's so it meets the strict standards
Spit it out!
required for medicines here in the UK. You'll often hear patients talking about irradiated and non-irradiated flower. You'll see plenty of opinions online. And trust me, if you spend enough time on Facebook, you'll see plenty of debates too. The important thing today isn't deciding which you prefer, it's simply understanding what the word means. J is for joint. I know, half of you were waiting for this one. Now, lots of people have smoked cannabis in the past, but if you've been prescribed flower by your clinic, you'll already know your clinic recommends using a dry herb vaporizer instead.
Just roll it up into a joint and smoke it.
Remember D? That's exactly why. The idea is to heat the flower rather than actually burn it. So if someone asks, can't I just smoke my prescription? The answer is, that's not the recommended way of taking it. K is for Keith. Not Keith, although if Keith's watching, I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. Keith is the fine crystal-like material that naturally comes from the tiny resin glands on the cannabis flower. You'll often notice it collecting in the bottom of your grinder after you've been using it for a while. It's one of those words you'll hear quite a lot in the cannabis world. So even if you never use the word in your life, at least you know what everyone's on about. L is for legal defence. Now this one is really important. Having a prescription doesn't suddenly mean you're above the law.
Wait, what?
It doesn't give you a free pass to do whatever you like. But in certain situations, like driving for example, there is a medical defence available for prescribed patients, provided you're taking your medication as prescribed and you're not impaired. That's why I always tell people, don't rely on Facebook comments when it comes to law. Take a bit of time to understand both your rights and your responsibilities. It will save you a lot of confusion in the long run. M is for MDT. Now that's not some mad recreational drug. It stands for Multidisciplinary Team meeting. Now if you've only just become a patient, there's a really good chance you'll hear this one sooner rather than later. You'll see people saying, I'm just waiting for an MDT. Sounds a bit worrying, doesn't it? But honestly, usually it's fine. At many clinics, it's simply another stage in the prescribing process where healthcare professionals review treatment plans before a prescription is issued. So if your clinic tells you you're waiting for an MDT, don't panic. It doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. It's just another step in the journey. And before you know it, you'll probably be explaining what MDT is to someone else. N is for non-irradiated. Non-irradiated flower is exactly what it sounds like. It hasn't been through the irradiation process we spoke about earlier. Now you'll see plenty of patients actively looking for non-irradiated flower. And then you'll also find plenty of patients who are happy with irradiated flower. The important thing isn't who's right or who's wrong. It's simply understanding what the terms mean so you can make your own mind up. And trust me, you'll see this conversation come up a lot. O is for out of stock, or oos, as you'll normally see it written. Now, if you've been a patient for longer than 5 minutes, congratulations. You probably already know what this one means. Unfortunately, occasionally products do go out of stock. Sometimes demand is higher than expected. Sometimes there's a delay with imports. Sometimes it's something else entirely. It's just one of those things that can happen. That is exactly why I always tell people, don't wait until the last minute before putting your repeat prescription in. Give yourself a bit of breathing room. Because if the medication suddenly goes, oos, future you will be very glad that present you planned ahead. P is for private prescription. Now this catches loads of people out. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, well, if medical cannabis is legal, why do I have to pay for it? And it's a fair question. Although medical cannabis has been legal in the UK since 2018, the vast majority of patients currently receive it through private prescription. NHS prescriptions do exist, but they're still very limited and only available in a small number of situations. So if you're becoming a patient today, chances are you'll be using a private prescription. Q is for quality control. Now this is all the testing and checking that happens to your medication before it reaches you. Every batch should go through strict quality checks to make sure it meets the standards required for medicines. Now I'm sure every batch goes through all the checks it should do.
Really? All of them? All of them.
But I think we've all opened the odd tub or packet over the years, raised an eyebrow and thought, really? Joking aside though, remember that batch number we talked about earlier? That is one of the reasons that is there. Everything is designed so medicines can be tracked, checked and identified if needed. R is for repeat prescriptions. Now don't just assume repeats happen automatically. Different clinics all have slightly different systems. Some let you request online, some want you to fill out a form, others will contact you when it's time. Whatever clinic you're with, my advice is always the same. Don't leave it until you've only got one dosing capsule left before you put your repeat in. Give yourself a bit of breathing room. That way, if there's a delay or the medication goes, oos, you're not left stressing. A little bit of planning goes a very long way. S is for specialist doctor. Now remember earlier when we spoke about the GMC specialist register? This is where it all comes together. Medical cannabis isn't prescribed by just any old doctor. It's prescribed by a specialist with experience in the condition they're treating. That's why your consultation feels a little different to popping down the high street to see your GP. They're looking at your medical history, the treatments you've already tried, and whether medical cannabis is an appropriate option for you. T is for terpenes. Now this is one you'll hear all of the time, especially if you watch a lot of flower reviews. Terpenes are naturally occurring compounds found in loads of different plants, not just cannabis. They're responsible for many of the smells and aromas you'll notice when you open a packet or a tub. So if you've ever heard someone say, "Oh, this one's really citrusy," or "This one smells a bit earthy," chances are they're talking about the terpene profile. Now you'll hear plenty of opinions online about terpenes, but just knowing what they are already puts you ahead of where you were 10 minutes ago. And that's exactly what this video is all about. U is for unlicensed medicine. Now don't let that phrase worry you, because it catches a lot of people out. When you hear the word unlicensed, it doesn't mean it's illegal.
This is not legal. This is not legal.
It doesn't mean it's unsafe. And it definitely doesn't mean you've been prescribed something dodgy. It simply means the medicine doesn't have a standard UK marketing licence for that particular use. Medical cannabis is prescribed by a specialist doctor and is still perfectly legal. It just follows a different prescribing route from a lot of medications that you might be used to. So if someone tells you it's an unlicensed medicine, don't panic. Now you'll know exactly what they mean. V is for vapor. Now this links nicely back to the dry herb vaporizer that we mentioned earlier on in the video. When you use a vaporizer correctly, you're producing vapor, not smoke. And yes, there is a difference. That's exactly why clinics recommend vaping over smoking it. So if somebody says, "I'm getting loads of vapor," they're talking about what the vaporizer is producing, not smoke. W is for whole flower. This is what most patients in the UK are prescribed. It arrives as dried cannabis flower, ready for you to grind before you put it in your dry herb vaporizer. You'll also hear people talking about oils and pastels, but whole flower is still the most common prescription people will come across. So if someone says, "I'm prescribed flower," that's exactly what we're on about. X is for, well, let's be honest, there aren't many cannabis words starting with X. So we're borrowing the X from expiry date. Every tub has one. Now, before anyone asks, no, it doesn't suddenly turn into a pumpkin at midnight the day after, but expiry dates are there for a reason. They tell you how long the manufacturer can guarantee the quality and the condition of the flower. So it's always worth having a quick look, especially if you found an old tub hiding at the back of your cupboard. Y is for yellow card scheme. Now I know it's World Cup season, but we're not talking about that kind of yellow card.
That guy is funny.
And I'll be honest, I didn't even know this existed until I became a patient. The yellow card scheme is run by the MHRA and allows patients and healthcare professionals to report suspected side effects from medicines. Now hopefully you'll never need it, but it's useful to know that it's there. Although, as we mentioned earlier on in the video, if you've got concerns about your medication, your first port of call should always be your clinic. And finally, Z is for zero tolerance. Now this is probably one of the biggest areas of confusion for new patients. People hear about drug driving laws and instantly think, well, that's it then, I can't drive. As a prescribed patient, there is a medical defence available, provided you're taking your medication as prescribed and you're not impaired. So don't assume you're automatically allowed to drive, but don't automatically assume you're banned either.
Say what?
Take a little bit of time to understand the law, because knowing your rights is important, but understanding your responsibilities is just as important. And there we have it. The A to Z of medical cannabis. Now, hopefully, next time you're scrolling through the Facebook comments or watching a YouTube video or chatting to another patient, you won't be sat there wondering what everyone's talking about. Now, I'm sure there are still a few words that I haven't covered today, and if there's one you think new patients should know about, then stick it in the comments below. If enough of you mention the same ones, who knows? We might get an A to Z, part 2. If you've enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, then please feel free to hit the thumbs up. It really helps the channel a lot more than you can know. And if you're new around here and you'd like more straightforward information about UK medical cannabis, then hit the subscribe button. Now, before I disappear, I've got one last little thing for you.
Poem. Please?
We've gone from A right through to Z, and we've covered quite a lot. Some words seemed nice and simple, and some tied your brain up in knots. Now, hopefully, in future, when these words pop up, you'll smile instead of stare. You'll know exactly what they mean and just why they're there. But every journey starts somewhere, and every expert was once new. So don't be scared to ask a question. We've all been there, like you. So wherever you are, my dudes, and whatever you may discover, as I always like to say, look after yourselves and each other. And as I also like to say, peace out, Cub Scout. Keep it real. And for the love of the alphabet, could we please just keep it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Angster. Gangster, I meant. Until next time.